Hello, everybody. Welcome to MangaPod. We are a weekly podcast in which we all get together after we've read all or part of a manga, and then we discuss it with friendship, love, and lots of spoilers. This week, we are talking I Am Hero, volumes 4 through 8, chapters 47 through 98, in a very special audio-only episode. Just so everybody...
This is my roots. This is what Podtaku was built on. We didn't have visuals when I was young.
Skype didn't offer that. Shout out to Skype, which is why it's bringing us back to audio only.
Yeah.
So we have myself, Happily Erin, Lou, and Holden are with us tonight. Just so you guys know who is all talking to you. But I'm Erin, Happily Erin. I'll have everyone else introduce themselves here.
Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Lou from Lou Talks Anime, and I'm off camera because I don't know where my camera is. I just moved, and moving and suffering, but my place is really nice, and I'm very happy with it. I'm happy to be here tonight.
Yay!
Same, dude. My name is Holden, and I'm currently the owner and operator of Legend of the Unending Spring, or Lotus for short. It's an acronym. So we just do a lot of animations. If you guys want 2D things to move, hit me up. If not, go check out my YouTube channel, Holden Casanova. Do a lot of stuff. Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Worth it.
Disclaimer.
Thank you so much for coming on with us tonight.
Absolutely,
We're so
it's my pleasure.
Back.
Thank you so much.
If you guys have never joined us for a manga pod before, what we like to do is give you a short spoiler-free description of the manga that we read, aka a summary that will be read by Holden, and then we will give you our spoiler-free recommendations, whether we think you should spend time going to read this manga or not. That way, if it sounds like something you are interested in, you can take your leave once we get to spoiler section. Go read it, come back and watch the VOD of this later on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/happilyerin. We do ask that nobody in chat post any spoilers for anything considering, like, in regards to this manga until we get to spoiler section. Once we get to spoiler section, please don't post any spoilers for anything past chapter 98. Holden has read it all, correct? Holden has read it all, so he will be able to call you out, time you out. Well, I don't know if he's... I should mod him. As I'm saying this. Hold on. Mod. Now we can.
Who wants to get back?
Oh no! Oh my goodness!
I wonder what happens if you try to ban Erin.
From my own channel. No! I will kick you out of this call.
Oh man!
What has she done? Oh my god!
What's the man gonna do with all this power?
Oh, what's gonna happen, guys? This may be our craziest manga pod ever.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
Dude, what's your favorite Monopoly piece? The boot! That's a fucking classic line that I used to say to people when I was banning them. Anyway.
Stop that, boy. Oh my god. Yeah. So no spoilers. You see what's gonna happen to you if that happens. We don't have, no fake spoilers, nothing. Don't do anything like that. We call people who spoil rotten bacon butts, so please don't be a rotten bacon butt. Thank you very much.
I promise that if you do, I will fight you.
Yes. Yeah.
Shout out to McGregor.
He's already made like $1 billion, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so if we're gonna go over I'm a Hero, to give you some background. It's ran from 2009 to 2017, so it only recently ended. And to get into the synopsis, an insecure 35-year-old, Hideo Suzuki, is forced to work as a mangaka's assistant when his own series is failing due to low sales. As he struggles through the mundane life plagued with hallucinations, he comes to realize his relationship with his girlfriend isn't that great, suspecting that she may be cheating on him with her ex-boyfriend. After confronting her about the possible affair, however, Hideo feels bad about his inquisition and decides to visit her house to apologize. But to the end of the world, as he knows it, is about to be overturned. At first, it may not seem as much has changed, but soon you realize the society has become a living nightmare and has horrifying reality and is taking place and finally beginning to sink in around him. So this manga, it's pretty out there.
Yeah, let's do spoiler-free recommendations.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Lou, do you want to go first?
I fucking love this manga. I've bought a few of the omnibuses. I think it's like 20 or 21 volumes.
It is 22, I believe.
So I've got some of it. I'm looking forward to filling up the rest of my shelf with it. It's really fucking good, guys. Every time I've had an opportunity to sit down and read this thing, it's just been like so immersive and so fast paced, and it always takes like really strange turns that like aren't all that surprising if you're familiar with like the zombie apocalypse genre of storytelling. But it does it extremely well, and I recommend this. Like, it is my favorite zombie apocalypse story, like by far, bar none. It's great.
Yeah, I piggyback off that. I agree. It's definitely my favorite zombie apocalypse manga that we've read, and we've also read Apocalypse Motoride, which is fun in its own right, but that ain't got nothing on I Am a Hero. And it's just so easy to digest. Like, it's such a fast read because of how fast action, how well done the action is, and how well paced it is. And so it's just really fun to read it. And then they also have a bunch of like deeper like psychological stuff going on that tends to accompany zombie apocalypse horror stories sometimes. And so I just love it. I love getting lost in it and just reading it. And so I dig it every time we get to go back to it. And I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for a horror or a zombie or just something with really awesome art and action.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a Hero is a really weird manga because it fills so many different genres and categories pretty effortlessly. Because it is a zombie apocalypse manga, but it's so unlike anything you've probably seen. The closest thing I could say is like Busan Station is like similar. It's a Korean film about the zombie apocalypse. But if you've never experienced I think what's so unique about this manga is that you get such a unique viewpoint as into how a place in like with no guns would handle a zombie apocalypse, basically. And I think it's really fascinating because a character like Hideo would be just an extra in an American zombie film. A guy with a shotgun? Are you kidding me? That's every farmer in the zombie apocalypse movie.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting kind of having this huge change, and especially in these volumes that we read with BBs and everything. But it's an incredible manga. The art's amazing. It's super fast read, and it changes up so much. It feels like the author is constantly reinventing himself. Whenever Hanazawa is trying to do something, he does it to the nth degree. Like, he'll be like, okay, this whole chapter, it's point of view. Or, this whole chapter, it's from like this completely different viewpoint of this whole situation. And it makes it like not repetitive even. Like it's constantly changing how they're going to like introduce all this new stuff. It's really fun. I think it's the best zombie series out there. My favorite's probably High School of the Dead because of a really biased reason. I read that so long ago. But I think that this is the best one, which is why I recommend it highly to everyone who just is interested in anything like it. It's definitely top of its class.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, there you go. We all recommend that you go and check it out. And so we also recommend that you do not get spoiled on it. If you choose to hang around, that is definitely your choice, but we say don't want to be spoiled. Now is the time to go ahead and take your leave. We're going to do a quick countdown and then jump into spoilers section. And once again, we remind everybody, please do not post any spoilers once we get there for anything past chapter 98. So, and we'll give you kind of a refresher for where chapter 98 ends so that you have a basis point for where to go from for there. So, okay. changing it over. I guess it doesn't really work to do a countdown when we don't have camera. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switched over, is done.
Hideo is God.
Hideo's God. Hideo's a hero.
So is the guy that like jerks off until he rips off his own dick.
Oh my god. I was like, okay, there's a lot of things you go into this manga not expecting, okay?
Yeah, I can see that.
And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? So, the last part we read was them going to the first hospital, and it being overrun by zombies. So it's Hideo, and what's the name of the nurse?
Oh, the nurse? I don't know. She's the blonde woman.
Oda something?
Oda.
Oda.
And then Hiromi. So it's those three are the ones who made it out. So that's where we ended, was that chapter. And so, yeah, we covered a lot of ground. We read 50 chapters, but it just goes so quick. It's ridiculous how fast it goes. When I saw how many chapters we were reading, I was like, oh man, this is a lot. And then once you get going, you're reminded that it goes like you can read 50 chapters in an hour and a half just because of how fast.
Yeah, it's super fast paced. Yeah. Kenko Hanazawa has got such a incredible framing system that he uses where he has two simultaneous actions going on always, usually like on the left side of the page and the right side of the page, and they're two different instances. But what's cool is that they're going on parallel. So he doesn't have to explain what's going on, and the coolest thing is that you get a lot of subtle details and changes. He's not afraid to draw the same panel, just slightly different.
Yeah.
Like the exact same panel, and the only difference will be like a person's hair will be falling. And that's it. And that's so cool because it really, you can infer all that motion and stuff. And as an animator, I love it because I can't wait to adapt this series whenever I get a chance. Because it lends itself so well. To just it's amazing to me that it's actually static because the whole thing, the detail and everything on it, man, it feels like you're just watching a film, like the pacing, everything.
Like it kind of, for me, it reads like a weird hybrid of Oyasumi Punpun and 20th Century Boys.
Yeah, sure. I can see that.
Like just in terms of like how motion is conveyed in the manga. And I totally see where you're coming from, Holden. Where like I feel like this, at least in theory, would be really accessible to translate into anime as a one-to-one adaptation, which most manga don't work as one-to-one, and I think this one would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just with how engaging all the action and the art is, it feels like you're watching it move. Like and I think that's just another reason why it goes so quickly, because it just feels like you're actively engaged in the story itself.
Yeah, I mean, you watch things happen. Like you watch characters literally as minutely as like, open a car door and close it. Like it's super minor stuff, and it's like they portray everything. With such excruciating detail, and you'll have pages with no dialogue, just straight up nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, so we basically the whole thing that we read, what we covered was the entire mall section. We ended with them at the temple area. That's where we ended last time. So we picked up from there and read all the way through the mall. So we met, we got introduced to Glasses Beard Kun.
Yeah.
We got introduced to him, and then Hiromi got scratched, infected in some way. And so let's talk about that, because her character had a much different role this time than she had in the first batch of reading that we read.
Yeah, absolutely. She's the berserker now.
Yeah, exactly. So what are your guys holding? I know that you read this before, but the first time you were reading it, but what were you guys expecting? Were you expecting that, or how did you feel about that becoming who her character is?
I didn't think she had superpowers.
Yeah.
because Hideo was bitten by his girlfriend with when she was toothless, and that kind of did something similar to him, but it didn't give him powers. And so I was just kind of thinking it was a parallel between him and her, and that, this is just how it is. But then after it happened, I was like, when does Hideo get his superpowers? He was kind of bit. Like, why isn't he able to do this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
That was my immediate thought. I was like, man, she's OP now. This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. But then she didn't even get used for most of what we read. She was barely even an active part of the story because it was so much about focus on the gun with Hideo and the gun.
The gun is the main character.
Exactly. Yes.
The over-under shotgun is the main character. It is. Every inciting incident for these 50 chapters is revolves around, is that a real gun? Real gun, all caps, real gun. That's all it is. The whole time.
Honestly, I don't think this could ever be adapted here in the U.S. In Japan, it makes sense for guns to be inaccessible.
Yeah.
Because of how gun control works over there.
Yeah, see, that's another thing that it wouldn't have, I was thinking that as I was reading it, I was like, this only works because of the Japanese culture, this part of it.
Yeah, it's very much a Japanese tale.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting because it's so unlike any other story we've seen. Because we've seen people go through malls before and shoot people, but we've never seen, kind of the effects of a nation that doesn't have weapons.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even seen katanas. That's yeah. The Western assumption would be, the standard logic would be, all right, so now we have samurai fighting zombies. That's the plan.
I mean, there's Cabaneri if you want that.
Yeah, I guess that is the closest thing in a steampunk setting. But it's so, I don't know. What I like about the series is it's almost melancholic.
Uh-huh.
It's a bunch of people who are kind of so Japan being the only nation that's ever actually survived a nuclear explosion, it almost, they have this saying of shogunai, it can't be helped. And it's really interesting seeing the older characters who are portrayed as the baby boomers in this series kind of have a similar mindset of, Japan will get through this. Society isn't collapsed. And the younger people in the series are so quick to be when the police are back, it'll be fine. And the younger people are like, there's no police. The world is over. And I think that's a really subtle thing that's super cool in this. Because Hideo will go to a supermarket and he'll pay for stuff. And it doesn't matter. Society is completely collapsed at this point. And so to kind of have that dichotomy of, these people believe that it could still happen, it's not over yet. Is really fascinating because you'll see a lot of the older people in the series, the bearded man in the beginning who is driving them around. He was kind of it doesn't matter, but Japan's been through something like this before. But then it's only whenever he pans all the way out and sees the fuming, the billowing flames and smoke that he says one of my favorite lines, which is, "I think Japan might be done for."
Yeah.
It's amazing. Because, it's super different, Mm-hmm. Let me ask you guys what you guys thought of the teenagers in the mall with the BB guns and everything, and, the living on the roofs. What do you guys think of that? Because I remember when I got to this portion, the mall setting is what interests me more than, anything else. Mm-hmm. It was how do they make use of this unique setting?
Yeah.
Well, see, that's where I would disagree. Within the zombie apocalypse genre, the mall is always...
It's a total set piece, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's always... I can think even in Japanese zombie stories, Gakko Garashi is one that comes to mind that does have a significant portion of his story told in a mall. So I just think that's a standard setting for the genre. Now I will say that how they went about incorporating the setting is what I thought was interesting.
I guess what I mean is it's such a unique way. It's so unlike for instance High School of Dead even has a mall arc too. How do you think it compares to those? What makes it unique in contrast to those, like, it's such a common set piece, like Dawn of the Dead, made it popular when George A. Romero, it is a set piece. Like, what do you say? You say it's like unique. What do you mean by that?
Unique, how the setting itself was used. Normally, when you see the malls incorporated, usually people are inside the mall. They're not heading directly to the roof. They're not in that surrounding area. It's usually them barricaded inside of it, holding the dead out, as opposed to trying to get in.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
So it's more about how it's used rather than it's more about the utility of the set piece as opposed to the set piece itself being unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what fascinated me about it, because it's very similar to so many different set pieces, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. And we got to see like how a collection of younger people came together to fight them.
The Lord of Flies kind of thing.
Lord of the Flies kind of thing, and how and something that I've liked about this story is it's been so much that it is Hideo's journey. And so it's not always necessarily about the people who stick around with him. It's about the people he encounters and then moves on from. And so just seeing this group of people, which has been so different from the rest of the people we had seen up until this point, because in your head, you kind of have the preconception of, oh, this is the ragtag group that he's going to stick around with, or this is the ragtag group that we're going to are going to take on and go. And so to kind of have that itself turned on its head as well, I think happened too.
Yeah.
Because not one of them makes it. A single one of that group makes
Singular
it.
person, yeah.
And then, so the rest of them don't. And that's another thing, when there tends to be such an uplifting, sometimes there's like an uplifting, this character has plot armor, or this character has plot armor. And that's not the case with this. Like, any side character that comes in, it's like, are you going to stick around? Like, which of you is going to be here by the end of this? And it's also nice that when they do die, it's not, each one isn't necessarily shown. Like, we don't even see each single person's death either.
Sure. You see just their moment, like their reanimated corpse.
Yeah, or like we hear that they died or something like that.
Yeah,
too.
it's just completely off screen, yeah.
Yeah, and so it kind of gives you the same feeling of what Hideo might be feeling in terms of he's meeting these people, but he's not making a deep connection with them. And so when their deaths do happen, it's not like they're affecting him in a huge way, but they're still really interesting to see what happens to the characters and how the characters are like brought down and what does it. What was the guy, the crazy long-haired dude?
Yeah.
What was his name?
I'm not sure.
Sango or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
It's the guy who takes the shotgun.
Yeah. His death confused me for a second, like, because it like opens the chapter or it ends the chapter where we just see his head being carried around, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Weren't you guys were like totally fine like a minute ago.
Yeah, it's
like
the
no attention
juxtaposition.
Yeah, exactly. Like no attention is drawn to it.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's like, he was the minor character. His purpose was with like the gun, and then Hideo had to find a way to get to the gun and then to show that he's the one the gun is meant to be with too. So it's kind of like the gun is the secret weapon of all of this. Like you said, Holden, the main character.
Is the main character.
The main character.
It does not stop being the main character, like, ever.
No.
It is so hyper relevant in this series that he has a working shotgun.
Yes. And it was so awesome in this section of reading when Hideo goes all crazy with it. Yep. Oh my god, it was dope.
Speaking of, I think like the biggest takeaway from that is he's getting more and more comfortable unloading on the dead.
Yeah.
It's true. It's not like how it used to be.
So we see there's a very long sequence, like numerous chapters in a row of him just reloading and just one-shotting the zombies in the head.
One shot
Just
dude,
goes.
OP.
Yeah, and I was like, I could like read this forever. Like, this is great.
Dude, the double pump, dude, they nerfed that.
Did you guys expect Mirai-kun to kill himself? Or did you expect him to kind of go along with be another person who stays with Hideo?
I thought he would be there for sure.
Yeah.
He was very developed and had like a morally, relatable point of view to the main cast thus far.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have made sense that he would have kind of been with the party moving forward. The end of 98 has like that great sequence where, the old man's asking the kid, do you want to live in fear on your own, or do you want to die now?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was he wants to live. And so the dude sets himself on fire.
Yeah.
That was pretty fucking metal, dude.
It doesn't even like. What's so cool about that sequence is, like you mentioned earlier, Lou, to go back on it, is they don't even show him burning.
Mm-hmm.
It shows him light it on the lighter, and that's it. And then it cut. The next time it shows it, it just shows a black cloud from where it was.
Yeah.
Like you missed the entire the entire like pyre is like diminished by then, and it has this really like solemn ending. A lot of these volumes like end really acutely, so I was reading the volume format again, and they're punctuated excellently. Whenever you finish a volume, you're just like, man, I just got to know what happens, man. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because it's so like what I really like about this setting though is how like well mapped it was. Like you felt like you're like, yeah, I get it, like where they are, I get what they're doing. But you finally get to see Hitomi's hallucinations of like the effects of her bloodshot infection.
Yeah.
And it's like a clever backstory about her as a child with these animals, these stuffed animals.
Yes. Whenever it cuts to her when she's fighting and she sees everything as a stuffed animal, and I thought it was really clever how after the first time she fought and kind of used that power, her abilities, and we saw the zombie being destroyed at the same time as her destroying the stuffed animal, I thought it was clever that the next time she ripped off a zombie's jaw, we really only saw her like take the stuffing out of a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
Because we understood, like we'd already been made to know what she was doing. So getting to see it from her point of view only, I thought made it even more impactful for that scene.
It's also kind of a refreshing breather away from just all the gore that we're exposed to.
Tons of body gore in this series.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the mangaka has ideas and they don't want to just burn through all the ideas.
Yeah.
So by alternating to a different style or a different visual effect to convey like that violence, I think it's a really well thought out strategy that is giving a lot of mileage to like the really awesome deaths that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the biggest body gore that caught me off guard was definitely the dude jerking it until he ripped his own dick off.
Yeah, dude.
I was like, all right, cool, you're jerking it. That's weird, but whatever. I guess I'm not that surprised or taken aback. And then the fact that he like fucking rips it off, and then you're like, oh, he's infected.
Oh, he's not okay.
Something's wrong.
No, and then the entire time he's like saying that he wants to hook up with her, and her first reaction is, "You ripped your dick off."
It's so gross. It like I was schemed out, and I'm not even a dude. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. One of the classic moments from this is also involving jacking off, and it's when he jacks off on his own, and she's like, "I can blow you because they have to have your semen to know that I did this at all." And he's like, "It's fine. Like, just give me like a tissue, and I got this." And she's like, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm good." And he has like a thumbs up. And he comes back like 5 minutes later. He's like, "Here you go." And she's like,
"That was quick."
And he goes, "No problem."
No, and she's like, "Thank you for your hard work."
Yeah. Dude,
That whole scene was so fun. That was great. I really love that scene.
It was
No.
great.
It's really weird. Like sometimes you really you're reminded that like Hideo's is kind of a untrustworthy main protagonist. How like there's like this great sequence where he'll still occasionally like break out into like a 9-panel choreographed dance sequence.
Yeah.
Where like he'll be like, all right, I did this thing, and he'll like look at his hand, he'll be like, I can dance, and he'll like do like some kind of weird like some posing, and he'll be like, all right, I got this stuff, we're going back to no business. And it's like you're reminded that, oh yeah, I forgot he was crazy before all this started anyway.
Yeah. And something else that's interesting about him, because I think we talked about last section of reading when he was talking about like hitting on Hiromi and having sex with her, and we're all kind of like, hold on. Something with this section, he was very like tender towards her, but not like super as sexually like oncoming as he was before, which I was expecting.
It's because he's not a necrophiliac.
Yeah,
she's that.
Definitely, yeah. And
it's cold in there, probably.
It's
Warm bodies. Shout out to the movie.
But I was just gonna bring up how he like was still taking care of her. Like he got her like the underwear instead of the feminine pads and things like that. And it was just like, oh, so he has like these sweet moments, but I'm still confused about how you feel towards her now, because he's got the whole he's pretending to be her boyfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so there's that going on, which kind of got put on hold just because she took a back seat towards everything else that was happening. So now that they're back together, I'm interested to see what more plays out with that whole thing.
Yeah, no, I think what's really interesting is that like this is like the real turning point in the series. I remember being let down last time we read this series because it didn't get to the point where I was like, man, this is not as convincing as I wanted it to be. Because it's so much like society is so intact that it just feels like, wow, look at this crowd of people that we can't do anything about. And it felt like just herding cattle the whole time. It was like, go to this place, go to that place. Why? Because the government says so. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it felt like there was no like agency behind the movements of the characters. Whereas now you finally get like this free reign of agency. Like they can choose to do whatever they want now. So now they're going to the hospital because they need to. But after that, sky's the limit, right? You can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced a pretty key character at this point in the series, which is the YouTube video of the guy killing his family. There's like two really great segments in within these chapters we read that I think I really want to highlight. One is whenever we're getting the people sweeping the kitchen area for zombies and stuff. And the entire sequence is told from the point of view of the characters, and the way you differentiate the characters is the masking in front of them.
Yeah.
So some have like a catcher's mask, some have like an airsoft BB mask, some have just goggles, like a skull cap mask. And it's so cool. I loved it because you get no like auditory, in an anime you'd be like, oh, it's this voice actor or something, you can kind of tell the difference. In this they use like what the actual POV is to differentiate the characters.
Yeah.
And I thought that was super sick.
I hated it so much at first, and then I was like, this is so cool once I realized like that I was being so put into the characters' perspectives. And it was like, because when you're in a zombie apocalypse and you're wearing a mask, like that is your limited field of vision, and so being able to see like the characters seeing is really cool, and it's done very well. But took me so long to get used to it. At first I was like, I hate this, I can't understand what's going on. And then I was like, oh well, that's the point of it.
I think
it's super
I think it's a good idea. I had trouble keeping track of which person was wearing which mask. But I mean, apart from that, I think like in terms of how the idea was executed, I think it was really well executed. Like once, like kind of like you, Erin, where once I really got a sense for what the mangaka was going for, like it felt really comfortable. But also, I feel like for as much work as it took to get comfortable with, that whole differing perspectives based on the type of mask,
Yep.
I feel like I didn't get enough out of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I had to work too hard for that one chapter, and then it goes away.
Yeah. That's true.
But that's what I love about it, right? What I love about it is how much work it puts in. Because the other instance I want to cite that you guys will understand is whenever they're having the montage of the 2chan thread and the collapse of society.
Yes.
And it's every pose, like every panel is punctuated with a post by some anonymous user, giving their 2 cents on the matter. And it's that's punctuated with some other random snippet of what's going on in society.
Yeah.
And it's completely nonlinear. Like the whole thing is like it doesn't matter what like order you read like the images or panels in, but it's like that's the point of view of the person sitting at their house. And I love how it keeps trying to give all these differing like points of views. Because even Hitomi and like how she sees the hallucinations, and how you have Hideo like hallucinating about the gun, and how he puts his hand like into the ground and stuff. I think it was like a really cool way of trying to give a voice to these otherwise voiceless characters. Like how so many people would be. Because I would totally just be shit posting on my computer during the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And so like seeing that, I'm like hell yeah, that's exactly like we would. It's like how we handle depression sometimes, right? It's like something unfortunate that happens. For me, it was like the election or whatever, and you'll just see me just making memes out of it, right? That's how some people cope with it, and I think it's super cool how they're willing to just take all this stuff, all these ideas, and then just throw them away. It doesn't matter. Let's move on to the next crazy idea that I have. And I love that about whatever this manga is. It's so not afraid to break its own convention and rules.
And
it almost feels like a compilation at some points.
Yeah, there are times where I'm like, I feel like we're going into a new story, and then no, we're back with Hideo. I'm like, wait. And so it definitely feels like there's moments where it just feels like there are one shots inserted into it. And it's not saying that that's bad, but yeah, there's times where it feels like a compilation of stuff. And I was actually thinking about when I was reading those posts, those chapters. I was going, this is totally, with technology and stuff nowadays, this is totally a realistic kind of portrayal of what some people would be doing. And it made total sense. And you don't see that in a lot of zombie manga because they haven't kind of gotten to this is one of the newer ones. Yeah, this is one of the newer ones that is like more familiar with that technology and that part of the internet and everything that's there. And so it was kind of refreshing to have that integrated into the story in some way to show that side of stuff happening at the same time.
I'm curious to see like what future zombie apocalypse stories are going to do. What with the advent of the internet, and as the overall population becomes more comfortable with technology, like I feel like it's going to have to be something that's more incorporated within the genre as society changes, because the baby boomers aren't going to be consuming this piece of media, so it has to cater for the younger generations.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean I think it's like what's super interesting is that like this is really just the tip of the iceberg. The reason that there's like an entire like for instance there's like a ton of spin-offs of this. There's Osaka, there's Anthology, there's a lot of stuff for I'm a Hero, and the reason is because it captivated. It has so many different stories and angles you can tell, and some of them they just wanted to flesh out. And I think that's like what makes this so cool is that it's so like nebulous and like what a zombie apocalypse is and like all those one shots that it really got people thinking like, man, what would I do? And then so they get their compilation, the author wants to explore those kinds of stuff. It's really kind of unique, right? Because it's not, normally it's just we're given one angle. And I think that's what I like about what you mentioned earlier, Erin, right? it's the cast feels like there's no plot armor, right? Like the plot armor is paper thin. Like
Yeah.
You know, nobody is like you. You can't judge a character's plot armor by their hairstyle, which is such a common. Like,
yeah. 100%.
It's like, does their hair like is it a standard bowl cut? Like, is it a standard part, or is it boom pimp made slick back? Like, guy is MC because hello, do you see his untucked uniform and his slicked back hair? MC.
Does he have blonde hair? Okay, he's MC.
Hold on, Mob Psycho 100% broke the hairstyle mythos.
But that's very much like the subversion for sure. Wong is all about subverting stuff because you got One Punch Man as well on top of it.
Yeah. Oh shit, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like the plot armor. There's even like Hiromi. There was points where I'm like, oh, is she just not gonna be here anymore? Like when she got bitten, I fully expected her to die. Like I totally would have found that believable to have her die just because of everything we've seen up until this point, where it's just like nobody is really safe except for Hideo. Just because it's his story, and maybe he dies and the gun finds a new owner, and then now that's the rest of the story.
That's such a cool idea. Like the fact that that's possible and like on the table is what makes this series so cool. Is it feels like these characters are just completely I haven't felt this kind of lack of plot armor because death is the point in this series, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole plot only progressed with death because death is this machine churning out enemies literally. And the only other series that really gave me that was something like, like Gantz, for instance, where it's like the whole point is to die. Mm-hmm. That's what you do. You're not supposed to win the game.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, like it really keeps you engaged and wanting to read more. And on top of the pacing on top of it, this whole thing is just a well-oiled marathon machine, like is what it is when you read it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's just a sense of it's not trying to be like optimistic in this dreary world. It's like you don't really expect anybody to survive it, and it's just fun to see the adventures of how they're surviving up until they meet their own time, like their end eventually. And so that's been something that's just a fun read to get into it, and it's just so engaging.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this manga is super appropriate for the month. So
that's true. It is.
If you want a good manga to read for the month of October, like to kind of get in that Halloween spirit, this is definitely probably more than anything else. It's not exactly a super scary manga. It is more it's more action based, and like it has a huge comedy component as well, and obviously the psychological side of it. But I feel like in terms of the elements that are there, like this is definitely something that I don't know. I think anyone for Halloween should read this manga.
Yeah,
for sure.
Do you guys have anything else you want to bring up? Otherwise, we'll do final thoughts and ratings.
Sounds good. No, we covered a lot, I feel like.
Cool. Lou?
No, I think I'm good. Just that the art is amazing. I didn't really get a chance to say that. Like you guys both said it.
Sure.
I wanted to chime in as well.
I agree.
The art, no, exactly. I just wanted to agree. Like there's so much detail. Like even if you look at the images that we all selected for our images for this podcast, if you look at the details on the teeth of the different characters and the gum line, like it's not standard. Like the mangaka really took the time.
You usually don't see gums actually. Now that you mention it, you don't see gums in manga that often.
No, you don't.
You see like that solid brick of teeth, like that row.
Yeah. Even the baby. Even I have a tooth.
Yeah. It's insanely rendered.
I have gums. The like grandma even like that is Dodger's placeholder. Like the mangaka does a really good job of showing that all these characters are different ages. Because that can happen in manga where it's like everybody looks like they're a high schooler or everybody looks like they're in their 20s. And so having a horror manga that kind of depicts all the different characters as different ages is really refreshing, and making it very obvious that these characters are from different parts of life and still all going through this, and that their reaction makes sense because of their age. You can kind of associate what you were talking about, Holden, what year, where they come from, what part of society, what time.
Yeah.
And so I think the detail in all the faces, even when they're zombies, is really important, and the mangaka does a really good job of making sure to emphasize that too. Mm-hmm. And it can happen when you have a bunch of characters that are realistic looking, they can all kind of blend together or look too similar to each other. And so that's something else that the mangaka does really well, is you're able to tell people apart pretty gosh darn good.
Yeah, it's very easy to tell them apart, that's for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Let's do final thoughts and ratings. Would anybody like to go first?
I'll go first.
Do it.
I really love everything about this manga. I have no gripes to really voice about it. Except for the fact that I want to read more. Actually, no, there is one kind of gripe, and for some zombie apocalypse stories, there's always at least a goal that the characters are working towards, and I'm not sure Hito has figured out what that goal is. And I feel like with as much of the manga as we've read already, it should be a little bit more clear. Like, I know protecting the younger girl is kind of his goal at this point, but I feel like there has to be something a little bit like that. That seems like it would be secondary to whatever he's really trying to do, because he just kind of like picked her up along the way, you know?
Yeah, I definitely know where you're coming from.
So in terms of assigning it a numerical score, I think a 9 out of 10 is about where this one sits, especially since Holden is really talked up the point that we haven't seen shit yet.
No, you really haven't.
I'm looking forward to rank, to boosting that score into that 10 range.
Yeah. Holden?
So this manga is it's so nebulous in what it's trying to do, and I really like that, because whenever I'm reading it, I never understand how close we are to completion. The only thing that is any indicator is the physical volume itself, and how many pages I've read through, for instance. And at no point I could be the last page of a volume and I'd still have generally no overarching idea as to what is going on. Mm-hmm. And that's what I actually like about it. It's basically a literal slice of life, and it's so engrossing to be in. The art's fantastic. It's so easy to read. It's a really unique voice that I've never heard before, as far as this kind of stuff. And it's easy, a 9 out of 10. It's top of its class kind of stuff. There's really nothing else really like it out there.
Yeah, I concur with both of y'all's. Score is 9 out of 10 from me as well. I think it does exactly what it wants to do perfectly. It executes the zombie genre awesomely. It tells a really great story about this main character and what he's doing as he's fighting for survival. And I just love the different twists it has on standard zombie things that we've seen before. And just the fluidity of the art and action of it, and how fast-paced it is that makes you so engaged into it, is really impressive for just a manga in general to do. There's very few that are as capable of it and do it as well as this one does. And I love the art, the detail that goes into it, I think is awesome. And so all around, it's just such a solid read. both for its genre and just for like the zombie seinen, like all of that, but also just in general for a story. It's just really solid, and I think a 9 out of 10 is fair for that. And I love it. I am super excited to read more if shit just gets crazier and crazier. I'm so into it. If like escalates from a dude jerking his dick off, like literally, I'm so in. Let's just do it. Let's go.
Yeah. No, yeah. The next like arc that's of the same quantity is like one of the craziest parts, and the part where I thought everything really kicks off. So I'm very excited to see what you guys think of it.
Because it ended with like 200 and some chapters, right?
Yeah, so right now we're sitting at volume 8, and there's 22 total, so we're about a third of the way there.
Third of the way. Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, do you guys have anything else you'd like to bring up? Are you good?
No, I'm good.
All set.
Good. All right, so that wraps up our discussion for I Am a Hero, volumes 4 through 8, chapters 47 through 98. We are going to read the description for what we are reading next week, and you guys in chat get to guess what it is. And Lou will be reading it because it'll be his birthday pod, so he's going to go ahead and read that for you guys.
All right. So let's go. When you look up at the sky, what do you see? Blue sky, freedom, a hopeful future. The people of Tokyo see none of these. Instead, an ominous alien mothership looms overhead, engulfing the city's skyscape. Okay. 3 years ago, they came. The arrival of the invaders sparked the greatest war humanity had ever faced, one that threatened to end the world. The Japanese government scrambled to fight the invaders. Weapons were mass-produced, sparking controversy and pacifist movements. That day, everything changed, and yet nothing has changed. Blank and Blank live their final days like they always have, going to school, playing with friends, and doing what any carefree high school girls would do. As they grow up, they come to learn what it truly means to be an adult, in a world where adults seem to be demons who only deceive and destroy. They come to learn the real threat to humanity is not the invaders, but humanity itself.
Perfect.
Oh, I see why this is your birthday one.
Yeah.
Can I say?
I just realized what it was. I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, I get it.
Like I'm looking at the alternative titles for it, and the synonym one makes me so happy. Do you guys see it? What it is?
Oh my God. I'm pretty sure.
That's pretty great.
I'm so happy. Oh my God. It is an Inyo Asano one. Correct. But which one?
I mean, obviously, I picked this shit.
Yeah. Spoiler, we're going to be reading Inyo Asano 2 weeks in a row. I'm so excited.
Stacky Stat, like,
knows
you gotta
it.
say the name. You just gotta say it. Like,
they said that they looked it up, and so they don't want to spoil. They don't want to cheat. But
okay.
Yeah. So they know they're hinting. Oh no. Gintama would actually fit. Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah. What,
The
whole alien invasion subplot even.
Yeah. All right, I believe we'll give it. We'll give it out to you guys. We'll give you another few seconds, and then.
To be fair, like, to say the title for this manga, I have to have it queued up.
Just say the synonym. That's what I'm gonna call it from now on.
If I say this, because people know the actual license title, I've never heard anyone identify by the synonym.
My boy Opie coming in.
Opie. Yep.
Yeah,
got it.
I got it. Dead demons. Destruction.
Dude, it's so good. Dead demons. It's Dead demons destruction, dude. It's crazy.
Or Honobono Fufu.
Yeah, that is the other one.
The best name.
Sounds like Little Bunny Fufu is what I hear when I read that. Little Bunny Fufu.
Yeah, this is his most recent one, so very relevant, guys.
I am stoked. Because we're also going to be reading, so that's what we're reading next week. For Lou's birthday pod, we're going to be reading volumes 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 24. So we're gonna be reading, and then we're gonna be reading another more Asano the week after too. So we love those manga on this podcast because they're so fucking good.
Yes.
Always.
Asano is the fucking man. I'm a fan.
So good. So that is what we are going to be reading next week. Let's go around and shout out our stuff super fast so everyone knows where to find us. I'm Erin at Happily Erin. I have a YouTube channel. All the previous MangaPods are either there or going to be uploaded there soon. I haven't really made any other videos. It's basically just the MangaPod channel currently. But if you want to go ahead and check out my previous stuff, I have anime reviews, first impressions, and a lot of mental health awareness stuff there. I'm currently in the process of working on a book, and so that's kind of where all of my time has gone into, and there's some pretty exciting stuff happening with that I will be posting more about on YouTube and Twitter in the next month or so. I'm so excited. But if you want to find more of me, I'm much more active on Twitter. Also Happily Erin all across everything. And sometimes on Twitch, I have started doing writing streams. So I'll probably be doing more of those soon because those are really fun. So, especially with NaNoWriMo coming up. So, that's me.
Erin, you are so profesh. I envy. I envy. My name's Lou from Lou Talks Anime. And, I plan videos, and then I start to script them.
Plan videos.
Holy cow. That's
mostly,
so good.
Mostly I just shitpost on Twitter, but you can find me at Lou Talks Anime.
Plan videos.
If you want to look at my archive of videos I've actually finished, it's at Lou Talks Anime now.
That's insane.
Or it's youtube.com/Lou Talks Anime now.
So, my name is Holden. You can call me Holden or Holden Casanova or Holden Reviews. I'm not too hard to find. If you type in the words anime and Holden, you should be able to find me somewhere on the planet. On top of that, I run a Studio Lotus. If you're interested in seeing that kind of stuff, message me if you want. And besides that, manga's the coolest. Manga's great. Go read it, kids.
That's
it's a good time.
Thank you so much for coming on, Holden. You're awesome as always.
It's always so fun to talk to you guys about manga. It's a huge influence in my life, and now more than ever, you guys will be hopefully seeing why.
Yes, we love having you. Always. So you have to come back next time we do Vagabond or I'm a Hero or anything.
Absolutely.
Well, you're always welcome back.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm always pretty free nowadays.
Perfect. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like more MangaPod, we have a subreddit, reddit.com/r/MangaPod. What was I going to say?
The schedule is on there.
There you go. Thanks, Lou. That's why I'm professional. It's because I have you great people backing me up most of the time. The schedule for the end of the year is up there, so you can go and check out if you want to see what we're going to be reading. We also have a recommendation thread that you can post in if there's a manga that you would like us to check out that we haven't yet. Go ahead and post it there. If it is already posted, go ahead and upvote it. Otherwise, we will be here, same time, same place next week, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, talking Deeming Honoboni Fufu, volumes 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 24. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
See you
Bye.
later.
Later. Bye. Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao. Ciao.